One of the questions that we've had a couple times from a couple people is, are we going to be recording this? And yes, we will be. And we will be sharing that after as well. So moving along, and I guess I should just say on the agenda thing, we have slated 2 hours for this. We're not sure on the time frame totally, depending on questions and how we talk through these things. Again, if I'm going too fast through things or whatever, just send us a question and let us know that, and we will be able to adjust accordingly. So here's kind of an image of our network coverage. We currently have 97 site locations across most of Canada. You can see there it's heavy in Saskatchewan and Alberta, with a network down in southern Ontario, as well as some sites into Quebec. We do have a coverage map tool, so it's uGrid with a 2ds.com/projects/prairie. You can also find this on our website, prairieprecision.com, if you click on the coverage link. And as well, please check with your local PPN dealer for more info on coverage. So we're going to talk through a couple of the coverage calculating tools we have, but it is always a good practice. Just check with that dealer and see for your specific area if we have coverage. So here's our list of PPN dealers, BC, being Prairie Coast, Alberta, all 9 of those guys. Into Saskatchewan, in Ontario, and in Quebec we have the 2 dealers as well. So we have large representation from, again, most of the John Deere dealers, and we're very happy to have them on board, and they can answer your specific questions on coverage. We do have that coverage guide that we've shared with you, and we just wanted to talk through it. If you look at our map and you take the 3 bases around you, on the coverage guide on the bottom of the page gives you a distance for your area. So we have it split by Northern Prairies, Central Prairies, and Southern Ontario. So you can take that and wherever you are and figure out the distance. The recommended distance is what we are looking at in this image. So for example, for 70 kilometers, we would have good coverage if we have 70 kilometers between the 3 legs, between the 3 bases, if there was 3 around you that surround you. Now, in case you don't have 3 bases around you, we have another method, and again, that amount or that distance is on the bottom of that coverage guide. And what you would do is just measure directly from one individual base. So from one single reference site, how far away you are. We're not going to get into the benefits and the specifics of a virtual reference station network, but the biggest thing that I just want to say on this is with a VRS network, we do not have line of sight issues like traditional RTK, and our signal does not degrade within coverage. So those are 2 huge I guess benefits of the VRS network and how we go about delivering RTK to our customers. So we're going to move into elevation accuracy. And the one thing we want to make sure we say here is, with any water management plan, John Deere is very clear on saying that you must be within 1 mile of any base for the system to perform well. And this is just a snapshot from the user manual in the white box there. You must be within 1 mile of the base station. So it's not attainable in most situations, but there are tools to help you understand what your accuracy will be. I'm not going to load these 2 tools, but these are very good things that you can use. So satpredictor2.deere.com you can use, and it will show you for your area. You can search an area, and it will give you the accuracy level of a given day. It's very important to be using these tools. Traditionally, with SF1 Auto Track or WAS Auto Track or anything like that, we just turn it on and go. It's a little bit different when we're talking higher level accuracy, and especially when we're talking water management. You do need to reference these tools. And as well, the space weather forecast really affects GPS signal in general. Again, you don't see it as much with SF1. You definitely see it with RTK, what the space weather is doing. So those two tools, make sure you write those down and use them. The one thing that we have found is in your Starfire menu, if you're a John Deere customer, you can see the VDOP. So if you were to go to Starfire and then letter G on the right-hand side where the little satellites are, you can see your current VDOP number. And that we find should be below 2.0. 2.0 just should be below 2 to run John Deere water management applications. And what VDOP is the vertical dilution of your precision. So it's like golf, lower the number the better. So it is telling us essentially how bad your accuracy is. So you want that number as low as possible. And again, what we have found from feedback from our dealers and customers with our virtual reference station network doing water management, if it's above 2, we start to see some elevation discrepancies when using the water management products. So we did do a couple tests this summer as well. This was on a scraper, and the scraper did not move over these 3-4 days. And we took a measurement on August 7th, and you can see the elevation there, and then August 10th as well. So our elevation is 1646,274 on August 7th. Nothing was moved. Tractor was turned on and just taken a snapshot of the screen. We can see that it moves 7/100ths of a foot over 3 days. So again, as long as you're within coverage, we have quite a few customers using our virtual reference station to do surface drainage and water management of all sorts with our products. So they do work well. So I guess what we're saying is it's a very proficient way of providing RTK across the most number of acres. Like we talked about with the VRS network, we do not have line of sight issues. Our signal does not degrade. However, we are not recommending our network solution for tiling or land leveling applications at this time. And just on note of that, we are working towards some new products that would assist in these applications and be still able to leverage our network RTK. So we have customers currently using it for surface drainage, and that's what we're going to focus on today. And that's what we can recommend as far as, again, within coverage and providing you that network solution. So survey optimization, we're going to move into what is a good survey, and Mike Evers is going to talk about that for a few minutes here.
Okay. Hello, everyone. What we want to talk about is first we're going to mention that there are 2 types of surveys. We have what we call a field survey, which is we're going to cover the entire field, and then we have a ditch survey. So we're just going to survey a portion of the field that we know is a ditch that we want to work in. We're going to focus on the field survey. We'll talk about the ditch survey a little later now. So here are some of the things that we want you to keep in mind when you're doing these surveys. The first thing is the hardware. What hardware are you using to record your data? Obviously we expect you to be using the Starfire receiver with a PPN RTK, but more importantly is how are you recording this data? Are you recording it with the 2600 screen, or there's other options where you can use a third-party data collector software As an example, I believe we're going to mention in another slide, there's software such as SMS software, and there's a lot of others that you could run on a laptop PC and connect to the NMEA port on the Starfire receiver. The reason that you may want to connect to those other types of devices is they record a little bit more information that is on the John Deere recording. The example is, as Jason mentions, you want to worry about where your VDOP is. We want to make sure it's below a 2.0 when you're doing your vertical surveys. When the John Deere is recording, it's recording all positions, which they rightfully so. They want to simplify things as much as possible. But as a surveyor, you want to know if my VDOP is higher than a certain value, that I'm going to start to question that position. So you would like to, the advantage of going to a third-party recording is you might be able to use that to edit out, the positions where the VDOP might have gone up too high. Because those high VDOP positions, your vertical precision is not as accurate, and it may be tainting your survey data. So you want the ability to edit that out to have a cleaner set of data that you're working with.
So just to sum up, Mike, we can take a cable, we can tee off of the Starfire receiver, and we can plug that into a third-party data logger.
Correct.
With that data logging, we can then edit out the points that are too high, that would skew the data.
Yeah, you can set up criteria on, when you are going to be editing out data. You can edit, say, all right, anything where the VDOP is higher than a certain value, I want to throw that data out. Or, number of satellites, any of the position data where it used less than 6 satellites, I want to throw those out. You can set up some criteria and edit out the data to have a much cleaner data set.
Now, we aren't recommending any software or stuff like that. We're just letting you know that there's these things out there.
They are available. Yes.
But like you said, the Starfire kind of normalizes or sums up the data. And to be specific about the data, you have to use this third party.
Correct.
Okay.
The next thing we want to work with is, or we want to look at, is which vehicle are you using to record your data? Some people will log the data as they're going with their sprayer because you're covering the field multiple times, or may have it on your swather. You're logging all your vertical data when you're doing that, and we actually recommend that if you're going to do a survey, you do it separately on a vehicle like a quad or a gator. The reason is say on your sprayer, two things. You have the bubble on the top of the sprayer. The flex in your suspension is going to change your vertical height. As you're driving along and you hit a bump, your suspension is going to flex. Well, that flex is going to be come out in your positions that you're logging. The other thing is, is my sprayer. I got 1,200 gallons. Is it full? Is it empty? I'm going to have a different, as it's moving along, the height of, where it's sitting in the suspension is going to change, and that's going to cause changes in your measurements. So the other one was, okay, you have my swather. Maybe I'm not flexing as much and it's not moving around. But the advantage or the disadvantage of using a swather is you're just covering the portions of your land that you're already farming. And if you're doing ditching, it's because you want to cover land, or you want to make land more available. So you're going to go through some sloughs, some ditches that you're currently not farming. And that's why we recommend that you use a quad. You can cover all of the areas that you currently want to investigate as far as moving the water from one to the other. A caveat I want to put on using a quad, again, you're still going to have flex in the suspension, so don't be ripping across the field at 30 kilometers an hour. Keep your speed low so you're not bouncing, and then cover the whole field.
And what kind of distance in your track should you have with a quad?
Your spacing will depend on what level of accuracy are you looking for. If you're just doing a rough cut, you got a high. There's a big elevation change. You don't have to be as accurate, but if you have a relatively flat and it's just some small depressions that you're trying to get rid of, you want to be more accurate. You're going to want to shorten your spacing in between passes. So the most if you're within 10 feet spacing, you're probably doing really good, for a tight coverage, somewhere in the 5 to 10 foot spacing range.
Most of our customers are in that 30 to 40 feet, which has been working well.
For rough cuts.
For a broad survey,
yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Another thing that you should be looking at is, what are my field conditions? So when I'm going out and doing my survey, if the ground is wet, your wheels are gonna sink down, and again, any of the sinking is gonna cause some wrong measurements in your vertical. So the drier the better. The other thing is you want to watch for, we want to be taking care of our low spots. So the drier the season, so we can drive through our sloughs, and ditches and things like that without getting, stuck is better. We want to be able to drive through those. So pick the driest time of year to be doing your surveys is ideal. So what needs to be recorded? When you're doing a survey, the main thing is, again, we talked about spacing. You want to be able to have your spacing depending on what kind of level of accuracy you want to go for. The other thing you want to look at is any of the depressions, you want to do a boundary around the depressions, because in a topography we call it a break point. So you're going to want to do a boundary around any of your depressions, and then again, hopefully it's dry enough that you can drive through those depressions. And again, with the proper spacing. If you want high accuracy, you want to be in that 5 to 10 feet spacing going through those depressions.
What about a ditch, height and elevation, and a culvert and all that stuff? Do we need to record that?
Well, again, I would drive the break points, the boundaries on the edge of those ditches, and you could drive. If it's a divot, if it's a steep ditch, then what I would do is I would drive the boundaries of the ditches, so the break point right on the edge, and then as much as possible drive along the bottom of the ditch, so you would have a nice break from the top to the bottom. The other thing is I want to emphasize. Jason mentioned the planning using the satellite predictor. In the survey world, this is vitally important. That rules our lives. It rules our schedules. If we want to get the utmost accuracy, which we do when we're doing a survey, you can't expect to be able to do it whenever you want to. We go by a predictor. We look at when the number of satellites are up, and we look at when the VDOP and PDOP values are optimal. And we will adjust when we do that survey based on when we have the optimal GPS constellations. If the optimal time is between 5 in the morning and noon, then that's when we do the survey.
So to keep in mind, as you move to a water management, all of our audience today is from the agricultural world, and it's the thing that we want to get across today is when you are doing horizontal work, be it seeding, spraying, harvesting, and you're using SF1, SF2, RTK, you're used to turning the key on and going. What we're saying here is, again, back to the John Deere recommendation or requirement in their user manual, being 1 mile away from base is a little bit different with the VRS network. We don't have those distance restrictions, but we are saying to you to make sure you plan that it is dependent on the quality of the GPS signal. The quality of survey you're going to make is the quality of the job you're going to get done.
Well said.
Yeah, I just thought of that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else to add to that, Mike?
No, I think we've covered all my knowledge. 30 years right there. You got it.
There you go. So that's it. Okay, very good. All right. Have a plan. Single most important factor is plan when to use the survey, like Mike said. Check the satellite predictor and check the space weather forecast. It is just the way it is with vertical accuracy and doing vertical work. So it is different than our horizontal. So we're going to take a minute to pause here just to ask if anyone has some questions to ask.
maybe.
Maybe. So I don't know how to do that actually. So all the mics are being opened up. If anyone has a question that they would like to say, you can go ahead at this time.
No question. No.
I had a few people ask me, he's like, what do you think? Anyone really here? Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really stupid. It's reading 80 miles an hour. I can't read it. No, there's still people in 80.
Yeah, they don't.
Well, I had one that was the other way around. It was 230. Freedom adjustment, but it was reading too slow. I've never had one read that.
Okay, we're going to actually skip that portion of the audio questions. If anyone does have a question, they can write it in. So we do have two questions here. One from Colin Bergstrom. If you are close to the base station, will tiling work? The one, I guess we could talk about the fact that if you are within 6 miles of our base station, Mike, it functions as a single site. You're looking directly at that site. You're not looking at the network solution. That might be a little bit confusing for some people, but essentially it works very similar to traditional RTK. We are not sure on that, Colin. We would assume that it would if
Yes.
you are right beside the base station.
I'm sure it will work the same.
Mike says it is for sure it will work. We don't have anybody doing it today.
Yeah, the distance, long as your distance, you're following the same recommendations, you're within 3 kilometers, so roughly 2 miles of, one of the base stations. It's gonna perform exactly like setting up a tripod, within that 2 mile distance from where you're working. The only difference is we're sending the signal over a cellular signal instead of over radio. But other than that, it should perform exactly the same.
And actually, Josh talks about this in his AMW topic, just the experience they've had with distance from base and stuff like that. Our second question from Rob Underwood, what third-party data lockers can you recommend? Rob, we don't have that right now, but we were checking into a couple of them. But we will provide that to the attendees after the meeting, stuff that we have checked into a bit, kind of thing. Is there anyone you can think of right now, Mike, off the top of your head?
I'm not going to recommend any. There are a handful that are out there. You can Google and list. Basically, it's an NMEA data logger is what we're looking for. There are, I can think of 5 off the top of my head, but to me, the most important thing is their ability to edit the data out. And that's what we need to look into a little more. I've done a rough search on some of them. And what I want to do is they're geared towards surveyors. So some of the questions and input that they want is probably a little over the head of most of our users. And so I'm looking for one that is, that's a pretty down and dirty, simple application. And we just haven't found what I think would be the right one.
Our last question that has been sent to us from Mark Jacobson, even though distance from base isn't an issue, are you still recommending against tiling? The thing that I guess we are uncertain of today, Mark, is that, and that's a really good question, how you sum it up that way. We don't have any customers doing it today, so it's kind of tough for us to say yes or no. We will feel much more confident when we are able to bring to market a couple products that we're working on that are specific to increasing elevation accuracy in a given field.
I'm going to interject on this one. Distance from base doesn't matter, especially on the horizontal with ours. But what that means is our errors are going to increase with your distance up to a distance with a virtual base. So our errors will increase up to equivalent to being about 10 kilometers or 6 miles away from the base. And then, even though, if I'm in the network and I'm covered, and I got good coverage in my area, even if I'm 30, 40 kilometers away from the nearest base, I'm in the good coverage. It's as if I'm within 10 kilometers of the nearest base, which is great for horizontal, but for vertical, they're recommending, you to be a little bit closer than that. And so there's when we say the distance doesn't matter, it's more applicable for your horizontal positioning. Vertical, if you are that 30 to 40 kilometers away from the base station, or even 15, 20 kilometers away from the base station, and you're looking for that sub-inch accuracy for your vertical, for your tiling, that's when you're going to need a local solution. And that's the product Jason's alluding to that we're working on, a solution that it's basically an augmentation product for increasing the local vertical accuracy of where you're working at. Hope that helps.
Okay, so let's move on. We are going to now move into the iGrade and Service Water Pro Plus applications from John Deere. And the first thing we want to talk about is the difference between the two, which one works for you. And then we're going to get into the optimization of each one and a lot of screenshots and a lot of going through. But our purpose today is to, again, that you set it up correctly as you do your fall work here, and that you understand how to use it. So that's what we plan to do. So iGrade has 4 modes: plane control, remote control, grade control, and distance trip. In general, again, with our broad generalizations, this is a more push a lot of buttons kind of product. And what we have found in the past, in my previous life, is a user must be good with the Green Star system. It's good for shorter ditches, and it creates the ditch manually. So, sorry, let me back up. I went one too far. What we mean by that is this is going to create a linear ditch, and it will not be able to respond if you have depressions in that ditch that you're creating. So we'll talk more about this in the iGrade optimization portion, but in general, this is a really good product if you've got shorter ditches. Surface Water Pro Plus. So there's 3 modes to this: the survey, the ditch, and the levee. Obviously, we're going to focus on the ditch in our area, minus Rosetown that needs levees, I guess. Users do not have to be good with the Green Star system because it functions very similar to AutoTrack. So if you have a hired hand on your farm that knows how to create an A-B line and knows how to use the AutoTrack system, he will find this very comfortable and very similar once with a little bit of training. We have found in the past that this is good for longer ditches because the computer will recognize those depressions in its survey, and it creates an automatic ditch. So you can see in the bottom image, we have surveyed there with the blue line, and the black line is what we're going to cut. So the computer is automatically creating that ditch and using those natural drops in that survey where iGrade would not do that. So in general, the easiest way to compare these two products and to explain these two products is iGrade is good for shorter ditches. Service Water Pro Plus is better for longer ditches. Not to say either one can't do it. It's a very broad generalization and kind of simplifies it, maybe too much, but that's what we found worked explaining it in the past. As far as the iGrade components, we wanted to just compare the iGrade components to Service Water Pro Plus because this is sometimes a little confusing. So we do have a lot of dealers on the line here. So I have added the John Deere part numbers for you to reference afterwards. So what we do need is a GS2 or a GS3 screen. We have a couple harnesses there that we need on the tractor. An SCV harness for two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, a CAN extension harness. You need your constant power harness going to the back of your tractor, and then your application controller with an iGrade activation. That takes care of all the tractor components. On the scraper, from that constant power harness at the back of the tractor, we have in the bottom left, our front extension harness, and that's the 10-meter version. That runs all the way up and back into our scraper. Then we have our implement receiver harness in the top left. As well, we have our RTK, and it has to be RTK to work with iGrade, activated receiver. And we also have a mast that is directly above the cutting blade. There are some available from John Deere, but every scraper is a little different. So generally speaking, customers make up their own. And then you need a deluxe shroud mount. So you can get all those parts individually, or you can order that one part number and it gives you that entire kit. That's a little bit cheaper to put a deluxe shroud mount on your mast. Moving to Service Water Pro Plus components, if you remember the components of iGrade, it's all the same except for we're adding two things. We're only adding two things. We're adding the Service Water Pro Plus activation, and we're adding the SF2 activated receiver. Now, I have asterisks with the application controller and the harnessing, and that is because you do not need an application controller or the harnessing to run Service Water Pro Plus. However, this gives you the full meal deal package where it's going to automatically control your hydraulics, and you would manually, or you would record the ditch, and it would cut that ditch for you.
30 series or better.
Service Water Pro Plus components, again, all the same. So we've got our front extension harness, our implement receiver harness, and our mast. If you type and answer them, then it puts it to everybody. Hey, Angelo has a good question. Which tractor series are working on iGrade? Anything with electronic SCVs, so 9000 series and newer that have the newer SCVs will work with iGrade. So 9,000 and newer all the way up to the 9Rs. Good question. As we're at the question portion of that.
It seems nice
here. Yep.
Josh says the 8,000 will work as well.
Oh, pardon me, and I'm in Western Canada mode here with our big four-wheel drive. So for people in row crop country, 8,000 series will work as well. 7R. 7R does not work as far as I know today. Another question. Have you heard of a way to use non-John Deere tractors? And the answer I would say right away is no. This iGrade controller talks right into the John Deere CAN bus, and you really can't, I mean, I haven't heard of it, and I don't know that has ever been attempted. So I can tell you there are other products writing software for the use of iGrade. And kind of complement the iGrade product, and you can check those out as well. I just can't think of the name right now off the top of my head, but you cannot take the iGrade controller and move it to a non-green tractor as of today that we know of. Good questions, everybody. Keep them coming, and we're pausing for questions here, but feel free to question us at any time throughout this presentation here. So we're going to move into iGrade optimization, essentially how to set it up and how to turn it on, and just some of the experience we've had with it, and again, our customers using it, using the network PPN solution, and things that we have seen and problems we've encountered. The first one, this seems like a simple thing, but it happens, you need to make sure your mast is free and clear and not obstructed. So this example here is this mast is obstructed and causes lots of grief, and this would be the same for any RTK system. That metal there would be interfering with the GPS signal as well as the radio connection or the modem connection that we use with network RTK. So make sure that your mast is free and clear. The picture on the right is a good example of the mast not being obstructed. So it's up and over and out of the way, very clear there. You can see our antenna dangling there. Make sure your mast is directly above the cutting edge. I know we've had some questions on, does this matter, how far above it is or how far forward it is. In the John Deere system, we cannot put an offset for how far forward your receiver is in front of the cutting edge. So again, for the best optimal performance, make sure it's above the cutting edge. And make sure your antenna and your modem are 2 to 3 feet away from the receiver. That just is for signal interference issues that we have seen in the past. And so the best practice is, make a mount like you see here on the right-hand side. Mount your receiver in the middle, let's say, but then put your modem on one side of that iron there, and your antenna on the other. So one of the things that are very important with iGrade setup is the threshold setup. So this is in the screen and in setup, and the scraper must be moving very slowly. So when we engage this, we want our scraper moving very slowly when going up and down. So what we do here is we guess a number and we hit that valve test box, and then we move it to extend or retract. We detent the SCV that we are using, and it will kick iGrade in. And you'll be able to see how fast or how slow that is operating. You want your your retract threshold slow, which is going down, your extend a little bit quicker coming up, but that is to prevent washboarding. So 2 things to consider if you're a dealer on the site here, or on the webinar here, pardon me, is DTAC case 91500, the installation of a counterbalance valve, and the iGrade calibration as well is a really good case, 102673. So have a look at those 2 if you're a dealer, to be able to just learn a little bit more about that. And a couple features we wanted to talk about in iGrade as far as the setup is max cut. It is there to allow the controller to cut only so much at a time. You cannot program in a depth. It functions very similar to your record height on a combine. So if you have a John Deere combine and you know about the record height and when your recording starts, that's very similar. So for this to work, you need 2 RTK receivers. Ourselves, we did a bit of testing with this, and we just found the feature for having that extra RTK receiver wasn't, as good as a feature as we were hoped for. So generally speaking, we don't use it, but it is available if you do want to put another RTK receiver on your tractor. Load limiting. This allows for a stepped response from the controller. So you can tell it at a certain RPM, start lifting, and it will start lifting the scraper. So as you bog down in a certain cut, excuse me, it will start to lift the scraper. You cannot use it with Surface Water Pro Plus. And the recommendation as far as leaving it off is it's a computer, and we can't program gray into it for today. So we can only give it 1 RPM. So if you're cutting at, say, 1750 RPM, 1800 RPM, and you tell it, well, at 1650 RPM, I want it to lift, we cannot tell it at 1700 RPM, lift this percentage, at 1650, lift this, at 1500, lift this. It is 1 or nothing. And so what we have found in our testing is it being a little bit too slow to respond. As the scraper starts to bog down, it's too slow to respond. So maybe we're wrong on that, but definitely it's a feature you can fool with and try. Just be aware that it is a black and white thing, and it's not, it's a computer. So we recommend to leave it off. And as well with Surface Water Pro Plus, you have to have it off. Now, just going into the modes, so that was the setup of iGrade, and into the modes, the one mode that is very useful is plane control, and it allows the operator to create a flat surface with 1 or 2 slopes. So this is very simple to use. It's very good for creating a bin site or leveling an area for a shop, and that's the one image there from the screens, and this is the other one. So you just basically on the right-hand side, lower your blade down to where you want the plane to be. You hit set plane origin, detent your SCV. In this case, it's SCV number 1, and you drive. It's very simple, and there's not much more to say to that. You can program a slope, and you can program dual planes as well, which we're not going to get into today, but just letting you know that it's there. Remote control. So this is the feature that's used in conjunction with Surface Water Pro Plus. So if you wanted, again, that full meal deal package of the controller controlling the hydraulics and then Surface Water Pro Plus, you're going to set your control selection to remote control. So again, this is in application controller and then setup, and you're going to go to remote control and then be done. So that's pretty simple. So again, you can only set 1 SCV for this, and then you cycle power once you make any changes, and you're good to go. The function that most people use with iGrade is grade control. So this creates linear ditches. So a straightforward line, like you can see there in the image, we just go ahead and lower our blade to where we want to be and start. So you input the grade, and then it continually resets from where it is It continually calculates from where it is set from. I really used bad English there. One of the things you can do, though, is you can use the grade calculator. There is a grade calculator in grade control. It's very simple to use. You go to your application controller, you hit start grade calculator, and it will record wherever you go the grade length and the grade percentage. It's really simple to use. Once we have that, we would take that calculated value, so this downhill grade here, 0.002%, and we would put that into the grade control slope box. So this is our run page. Sorry, not our run page, but one of our setup for our grade control. So all we do here is we have to tell it what percent slope we want. Generally speaking, 3.03 works well for a slope to get the water moving. And that's all you do. Input that slope percentage there. And then on our main run page, it doesn't tell us our slope percentage. We can set their pages up differently. And then the user, you have to tell it which direction you're going. So if you remember back to when we were talking the difference between iGrade and Surface Water Pro Plus, and I said you have to push a lot of buttons, I hope you're starting to see that there are a lot of buttons to push here. So you have to tell it the grade, you have to tell it the direction, and then you lower your blade wherever you want to start, okay? Because this is different than what Surface Water Pro Plus is going to be. You set your blade to where you want to start, and you hit start grade. And it will create that point, in this case, in this example, that 0.03 grade from wherever we drive.
Making sure you're pointing in the right direction.
Yeah, and you're pointing in the right direction. You're ready to go. You're at the start of your ditch. You hit start grade, you detent SCV1, and it will start cutting that 0.03% grade. Okay? So we can pause here for some questions, but again, just reference that iGrade handout if you can. And that is just kind of a quick reference guide because there's a lot of things that we just talked about just click on that guide there, Mike, just so we can see it ourselves. And it gives you a little bit of a indicator of how to go about, scroll down, setting it up and going about it. So I think we kind of went through that pretty quick, but that guide will help you as well. I just wanted, if you could zoom out a bit, I just want to see if I had the screenshots there. Yeah, one of the questions we have here is why would a person not just buy Surface Water Pro Plus instead, like skip over iGrade? Good question. What we saw in the past is that if you buy iGrade, there's no cost or disadvantage or advantage to be upgrading to the Surface Water Pro Plus later. So currently with John Deere's pricing, they do not give you there's no discount to buy Surface Water Pro Plus to start with. So what we had happen is a lot of customers buy iGrade, and then of course you have to buy the Surface Water Pro Plus activation and add an SF2 receiver. So for some guys that just had the one RTK receiver, iGrade worked, and that's all they needed. So I can tell you, in my previous life, we had all sorts. We had a pretty good split between iGrade, Surface Water Pro Plus, guys ditching with just a bubble on their scraper, all sorts of things. It really was a mixed bag, and it isn't really one solution for one area. It's really specific to a customer's needs and what they need. So iGrade might be good enough for you, but again, those guiding principles seem to help us. If you're okay with pushing buttons, you'll like iGrade. If you have trouble setting your auto steer, you're gonna hate iGrade. Okay, so just make sure you keep in mind that. Let's do it after the Surface Water Pro Plus. Okay. So now we're going to move into Surface Water Pro Plus and the optimization of that. So this also has some machine setup items as well. Now I do have to mention that we are assuming you're going to use the application controller in this case, and you're going to set that to remote control. So we are going to automatically use our hydraulics, and we're going to now add the Surface Water Pro Plus module. That means everything I just said about setting up your hydraulics and those threshold setups and all those things are vitally important to making sure Surface Water Pro Plus works as well. So reference that information as far as setting up the thresholds and stuff like that. Make sure that's working good. Then we move into our Surface Water Pro Plus optimization and setup. Okay, and it's very important that we have our offsets correct. So this is what's different than iGrade. So with iGrade, you also have to put in your offsets for your scraper and such, which we did not cover, but it's the same thing. You need to make sure that your machine is set up correctly and your implement is set up. So this is in Green Star menu, letter H, equipment, and the machine is there as well as the implement. The implement has two things though when we have scraper, and if you don't have scraper, you're going to have to talk to your dealer because they're going to have to add that as an option. You need to change your offsets as well as your GPS offsets. So in the bottom image here, letter A is our hitch to our receiver, and letter C and D. So letter C, vertical distance from GPS receiver to cutting edge, and then letter D, a distance from receiver to ground. So in this example, we have 16 inches of travel. The system needs to know that to operate properly. If you skip this step, or if you do this kind of quick, you're going to have problems. At the end of the Surface Water Pro optimization thing, we are going to talk about how to calibrate this. Because that first mast, if you remember, it moved up and back, and it travels on an arc. So we do need to calibrate this measurement. So make sure to measure all offsets exactly to ensure optimal system performance. So what we're going to do is, first thing, we need to go to our tracking mode, and we need to change our tracking mode to ditch track. If you skip this, you won't be able to make a ditch in water management. So we are in Green Star, letter B for guidance, and we've changed our mode to ditch track. Map settings need to have coverage in the foreground and guidance lines checked off as well. So that's under letter A. Go to your letter A, go to map settings, and then check off guidance lines and coverage. It should be defaulted, but just double check that. And then we have to set up our documentation. We do need documentation on for this to work. So in your boxes there under letter I in the Green Star menu, we're going to hit water management, and then the type we're going to choose is ditch. So in Surface Water Pro Plus setup, change the survey mode to distance based. It defaults to time. What we have found and what we recommend is distance based works best, and we want to change that to 7 feet. As well, your survey receiver source will default to the machine. So again, if you remember from our requirements, we now have a bubble on our tractor so we can auto track the ditch, and that needs to be changed to implement 1. Okay. Now, you can do a survey within Surface Water Pro Plus as you're driving. So again, back to what Mike was talking about, the survey. We do have customers doing this on machines, and it is working. And you can do this as you go through the field. Just keep in mind those things that Mike talked about that affect the accuracy of that survey. Just as you go about doing that. So again, we talked about that, and make sure that the survey receiver source is set to the scraper receiver. So as far as operating this, once we're ready to go, we hit the ditch tab at the top of our water management page, and we raise our blade all the way. So if you remember in iGrade, we were lowering it to where we wanted to start and then hit set start grade. This is different. We're going to raise our blade all the way and hit set A. We're going to drive to the exit of the drain and hit set B. So remember how I said that this function is very similar to AutoTrack. If you've used any John Deere AutoTrack products, you are very familiar with what we're talking about here. Once we do that, we change to the profile view, and then our ditch profile will show up. So if you see in the top left corner, there's a little box that says profile view. We change to that, and then we get this image. Okay? Once we have this image, we can create our drain. So what we're looking at here is a grid and an example of a survey. The blue line is what we have surveyed, and the green triangle is the bottom of that triangle is where our current blade is right now. Okay, what the computer is seeing as far as where the blade is. So what I want to do now is hit create edit drain. So just to recap, I've hit set A, I've hit set B, I've hit profile view. Okay, now that create edit drain box shows up, and I can choose that. So 2 types of drains are available, and we need to talk about them. So in iGrade, again, as I keep bouncing back and forth, we only had the option for a linear drain. This Surface Water Pro Plus allows us for a best fit drain versus a linear drain, pardon me. What a best fit drain does in these 2 examples you can see is it uses those natural drops in elevation, so it doesn't need to cut a whole bunch of stuff that it doesn't, where it's going to drop naturally. So it's going to remove possibly less dirt, but get the job done quicker. Whereas a linear drain just goes straight across. So you're going to have cuts and fills. So if you remember what I said, very broad strokes and generalizations, iGrade is good for shorter drains. This example on the right, if this was a longer drain, we would have depressions in there, and iGrade would not be able to recognize those. So yes, you can go along, see that there's a depression, lower your blade again and hit start. But what the best fit drain does on the left-hand side, and the real power behind the computer doing this, is it will figure that out for you and make that drain correct the first time. So best fit will be used most of the time and is the most efficient mode. But the reason linear is still in Surface Water Pro Plus, you may be asking, well, I'll never use linear. Best fit drain does not work well with flatter fields, with a low grade field, low grade drain. You want to make sure you want to use linear there. And it's very simple to know which one to use. You just switch between best fit or linear and hit generate drain. You haven't accepted anything yet, just change your drain type between linear and best fit, hit generate drain, hit accept, and you're good to go. So once we hit generate drain and accept, it will function much like auto steer. Okay, so in the bottom left corner, you see your very familiar wheel and the pie. So you turn your steer on. Now, another advantage of Surface Water Pro Plus, if you remember with iGrade, we had to tell it what direction we were going. With Surface Water Pro Plus, we just can drive. So it will cut uphill. So we're at the bottom again. I don't know if I said this, but in Surface Water Pro Plus, we have to always survey from the high to the low. So your blade is all the way up in the air. You start at your high point, you drive to your low point. Okay, you have to always do that with Surface Water Pro Plus. As soon as you turn around, turn auto steer on, okay, and it grabs the line, then you can detent SCV 1 or 3, whichever one you're using, and it will start automatically cutting. If the system is going to cut too much, you can override it at any time and run it manually. And generally speaking, what you're going to do is manually do all the rough work and then allow this system to cut in for all the last few passes to really just get that perfect job done that a human sometimes doesn't get done perfectly. And that's where the system really shines. It does it right the first time and you're done. Once you get used to this screen and the grid and everything, it really starts to make sense. And there's an elevation calculator there. It tells you exactly what your elevation is. And as well, like we talked about, your VDOP is always on this page as well because it's that important that Deere put that in there. So in this example of us running a ditch is the bottom of the triangle is our blade, like I said. The blue line is the survey, and the black line is our desired cut depth. You will see kind of hidden in there a little pink line, and that is what we have cut, okay? And that will always tell you what your last pass, what you cut. And it is kind of confusing the first time you look at this, but we've had a lot of people use this, and it starts to make sense once you understand the grid. So the grid, for example, in the bottom there is 1.1 inches for every vertical. So going up and down on that grid is 1 inch, okay? Every box in that grid was 1 inch. So we talked about the calibration of Surface Water Pro Plus. We want to make sure that we share with you that the GPS offsets, like we said, are of critical importance, and a calibration can be done in Surface Water Pro Plus. So after your offsets are measured and after the first ditch is made, what you're going to do is you're going to move the scraper directly over where the black line and the blue line intersect. And that elevation error should be 0. Okay? So if you can see this example on the right-hand side, how we have our pages set up here, on the right-hand side, if we can pretend that that bottom of that green triangle is right over top that black and that blue line where they intersect, that error should be 0, and in this case, it's not. So what we can do is we can go into our GPS offsets letter C, and we can change it until we get that error to be 0. So go back to your machine setup, go to implement, go to GPS offsets, And quite frankly, this is just a bit of guesswork. Just take that error number. In that case, it was 0.19 inches. Sorry, 0.19 of a foot. And you would just measure, and you would just change this accordingly to make that 0. That is the way we calculate for an arc in Service Water Pro Plus. Okay. Again, your mast, or that mast, or if you make a mast that goes back, is going to travel on an arc, and you can't really measure that, but you can calibrate it. So that is a very important thing. Essentially, if your system is cutting too much and you don't think it's calibrated correctly, look at this, I guess, is the biggest thing to say. So again, like I was saying with the mast, if you can think about this thing moving up and down, this does not move straight up and down. It moves on an arc trajectory, and every single one that we have set up in the past, we have had to do this with these type of masts. And a little plug for John Deere Farm Site. We went through a lot of images here. We went through a lot of screenshots and a lot of buttons to push. But keep in mind that our dealers are very good at optimizing these products. So, talk to one of your local John Deere dealer today. They have packages available to help you get going here in the fall. And, it would be definitely worth your investment in that to make sure it's optimized exactly as needed. So some troubleshooting tips that we just wanted to cover. If washboarding occurs and you've done your threshold calibrations and you feel like you've got your flow to your hydraulics as good as can be, talk to your dealer about a counterbalance valve that can be put in line in your hydraulics, and it seems to fix a lot of those issues. In Service Water Pro Plus, always survey high to low for ditch creation like we talked about. And in Service Water Pro Plus, if you can't create a best fit drain, if it says there will be an image that comes up says cannot generate drain, blah, 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 try changing to a linear drain. Or try changing your parameters a little bit higher for the settings on that ditch. If auto is grayed out or crossed out in SCV control, try turning the tractor off, unplug the application controller, clear the codes, turn the tractor off, plug the controller back in, and start tractor and try again. That's a lot of steps. Essentially, if you cannot turn auto on in your hydraulics, which we did not cover in this section, but it is in the quick reference guides that we have for you. Just talk to your dealer, because that's something that needs to get changed. Make sure you change that survey interval to 7 feet. And if elevation errors occur, check your GPS signal quality and VDOP and see if there's anything that can be done. So moving that antenna away from the bubble changes things, and changing the GPS signal quality as well. There is a feature in Service Water Pro Plus that we did not talk about today. Let me just go back to it that we have a question on, kind of. Is this benchmark settings box right here. And we haven't used it enough. We've done a little bit of testing with it. What that is there for is to come back to the same point and then calibrate your elevation. So if you are creating a longer ditch and need to work over a couple of days, you could come back to this point, record a control point, come back there and hit calibrate, and it will calibrate to that previous control point to get rid of any elevation errors.
Similar to a shift track.
It's similar to a shift track, but vertical. In general, what we have recommended to previous customers is get that ditch done that day and then move on. And if you are coming back to a ditch and it's not that long and you can just resurvey it, is essentially the best way to make sure that you do not have elevation errors. Just resurvey it and you should be good to go. you want to put that poll question up. We are at the point of questions again as well. Just wanted to, we are going to launch a poll here that we're interested to know what you guys think. So please answer one of these two things. I think the better value product is, and keep in mind that they're, similar priced, with the exception that iGrade, you do not need an activation on your screen, and you do not need a second bubble on your tractor. So it is less money, but as far as features and everything that we went through, which one do you think you would prefer to use? Right now, we have, we'll just give it a few more minutes here, a few more seconds, I guess. As we're doing this, you can also type in any questions that you have for us as we're moving on to the next section. It's about 75% say Service Water Pro Plus and 25 say iGrade. So pretty straightforward. You can see that, I guess the thinking there is just again, it does function like AutoTrack that a lot of people are used to. And that's where the real power in it, and being able to create that best fit drain, move the least amount of dirt, use the natural drops. It's a very powerful product and works very well. What's your other one? Hit close, and then go to this. And we have one more question for you. With all the setup that is involved in Service Water Pro Plus and the pages and the documentation, which product do you find is easier to use that we went through today, or that looks to you? Is it iGrade or Service Water Pro Plus? iGrade is a little more manual, but not as many buttons to push. iGrade, Service Water Pro Plus was more setup, but functions like AutoTrack. And we're about 90% in favor of Service Water Pro Plus, which we assumed we kind of knew, and 10% in iGrade. So just kind of interesting, but we want to just get everyone's feedback there. So you can close that mic if you want.
56%.
Yeah, that's
enough.
Yeah. Okay, we'll just pause here for any more questions. We did go through that fast. Again, reference those handouts. Again, talk to your dealer if you're a customer on the webinar today and interested in water management products. It is kind of hard to get all of the ins and outs of these products in a webinar format, but your dealers do know these things, and they can help you with those sorts of things as well. We are able to be a resource to yourselves or our dealers as well in providing some knowledge there on these products. So with that, I just got to find. Okay, like we said earlier, we have Josh Hetu from JLD Lagoo. I have unmuted you, Josh.
Okay, hi everyone.
Yeah, good morning.
So first I want to apologize for my French accent. And if you have any, nobody can be perfect. If you have any question or it's hard you don't understand what I'm saying, just wrote your questions and Mike or Jason will tell me what's the questions. So today we're going to talk about who is JLD Lagoo, why we are using the MW product, what is our experience with these products, and what is the benefit versus a John Deere solution and AMW. So who are we? We are John Deere Dealer with 14 stores. We've got 11 stores in Quebec and 3 stores in the Eastern Ontario. Our division has been established in 2006. We are AMW distributors since 2006 for all the Eastern Canada. We are an AFCOM dealer since 2011, and we are an OptiSurface distributor since 2012. We have a full-time agronomist that is working with us in our division for labeling plant production and data integration since 2012. Our on RTK network, we've got 7 bases with using 900 technology in southern Quebec, and we've got 4 PPN bases, 3 in Ontario and 1 in Lac Saint-Jean. And there's more to come in 2016, so we know that we're going to extend our network. And for now, we have over 200 customers that are working with their own 900 megahertz base station, almost for land leveling and tiling. So from there, why we choose AMW? So in our area, the excess of water is a real problem. So the surface drainage is the key to solve these problems. We made some study and we found that it will affect 30% of the yield in our field. So in 2006, the John Deere was not getting any solution, and the land leveling that was done in our area was done by contractor. And it was a laser mode that our customer was using. So at that time, we have looked for a solution for land leveling. When we looked to that solution, our criteria was to be compatible with the John Deere Starfire receiver. We was looking for topography mapping, planning of the surface drainage, and not only laser simulation. So the AMW system is compatible with non-Deere equipment. So if our customer owns a Case or Newholland tractor, it's possible to use it with these tractor. And even if it's an older tractor like the 4D series John Deere tractor, we can add an external hydraulic valve on this tractor and use it for land leveling. So at that time, there was a few solutions available worldwide. Almost every company was interested to make their product available from us. So after the analysis, we found that AMW was the choice. So who is AMW? They are software developer specialized into elevation and machine control for agriculture, construction, and waste management. Their solution for agriculture is topography mapping, land leveling, tiling, and drainage design, and also ditchings. So our experience with these guys, we are working with them from 10 years now, and we are close up to 300 units working in land leveling, and I will say about 40 to 50 units for tiling. So we are gaining experience, and I can say that we are experienced with this system. We found also that the distance from the base stations is crucial. So for land leveling, we won't go over 3 kilometers, and for tiling, we won't go over 1.5 kilometers. And we found that shading and multipathing has more effect onto the elevation side than guidance side. So it's some point that when we are installing a base station, we want to make sure that we will not have any of these things. We also found that the Starfire receiver are good, but they are limiting into configuration. We are not able to change the elevation mask, so that's result in some elevation shift few times per day. So we know that other companies do have this problem, but it seems to be less prevalent. So from there, I think you missed something here into the experience. Can you go back, Jason?
Yep, sorry. Yep. I don't have another one after that. Maybe just talk to it.
Okay, no problem. Okay, we're going to continue in the one that I've got something here. So the MW versus the John Deere ones for water management. The Pro for the MW, that is compatible with any make of equipment. So we are not only with John Deere equipment. The dirt software for land leveling is more complete than the iGrade. So we've got the cut and fill color coded. The customer see which area he needs to cut and where he needs to fill into his display. We can also import a design. So if when our agronomist has made the plan, from there we can enter that into the display and the system will work according to that plan. Also, we can change the cut and fill color so we know where we are in the job that we are doing. The pipe software has been made especially for tiling, so it's working with minimum slope. I can talk about ditching because in our area we are not using it. And the cons for the MW, we need to put another computer into the cab, so we cannot use the Green Star display to do our land leveling job, but we don't need to have one into the cab. So it's not a green on green solutions. Um, yeah, I know that it was expeditive, but do you have any questions about that?
One of the questions we have here, Josh, we have two actually, but one of them, can we use that with an iPad, or does it have to be a laptop type computer?
It's a laptop type computer. For now, we are buying some commercial type computer that we are putting in cab, but it's not compatible at this time with an iPad since we need to have a COM port communication. It's not a Bluetooth communication.
And the other question I guess I had is the majority of your customers, the 300 or so that you have doing this, are they going out and surveying the field, and how are they doing those surveys, or are you guys providing that service to them, or do they just go and start making ditches in the fields and know where to go?
No, no. Most of our customer, I will say 99% of them, will do their own survey. So they are putting the system over a gator or a four-wheel, not a four-wheel drive, but an ATV.
Yep.
And from there, they are sending the survey to our agronomists, or there's few places that offer the service to make the design, but they are sending the survey to their agronomists, and from there the agronomist is doing the design, and then once the design is okay, he's sending it back to the guys, and then he's starting leveling. So I will say that everybody is working like that, and in some small field when they just wants to label it and they don't care about following the slope of the field, they will use it like a laser mode system like the iGrade.
Right. Okay. Thanks. Any other questions? You can just type them into to Mike here to answer, and we can relay them to Josh. I'll just mention as well, we had the link on there that Josh provided, amwgps.com. We didn't share a lot of the screenshots and what they look like today, but you can go on their website and see all their products as well. The contact info for Josh and also Bruno Bouchard is there. So both of their phone numbers and their emails there if you want.
Well, don't be shy to give me a shout if you have any question. It's always a pleasure to answer you guys.
Well, thanks, Josh. That was very informative. I think what you bring to the table for a lot of us out west is the amount of that you guys have been doing this and the experience you've had. And you did mention your base station setup and those sorts of things. The limitations on some of the equipment, the Starfire receiver, those sorts of things. We know they exist, but we're working through them, and obviously you're using them very successfully.
Yeah. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. So we're kind of at the end here. So if we have any more questions, we'd be able to field them for a few minutes here. Doesn't look like any are coming in, so we'll just sum up and then we can, well, it depends where you are, I guess, if you're going for lunch or not, or already eaten. So I guess what we wanted to say, we talked a bit about this, but have a plan. It's very difficult to go to a field and start ditching like you would with, any other farm application you do. So remember the 6 P's. Proper planning prevents piss poor performance. Plan ahead of time. Get a survey done, maybe by an agronomist or something. Talk to somebody. Set up your equipment. These things take time. Don't expect to be ditching after lunch when you get the scraper out to the field at 10 a.m. It's probably a very not a achievable expectation. Talk to your local John Deere dealer about how best to maximize your current AMS products. So you've got a good investment sitting there in Green Star hardware. And even with, like Josh was saying, with the AMW products, you can still use that Starfire receiver to talk to their products, right? And send that information to that laptop. And talk to your dealer about how our network RTK solution can work for you. Don't expect the impossible. So the fields you've been trying to manage for your life will still need to be managed. And some plans take multiple years to complete. And our dealers also do have limited demos available for our PPM modem and access to the network. So talk to them and see what you can get done in October here in the fall before snow flies. But they do have equipment that is available for they have some equipment available that is available for demo. I think I said that really difficultly. I want to say thank you for attending. Our contact info is here. Just give us a shout at all if you need to. My email was also in the when you logged in. What's that? In the invite. In the invite, obviously, my email was there. As well as the chat at the beginning of the chat. So if you click on the chat on the right-hand side and scroll to the top, my email is there. We do have a short 4-person survey to send out. 4-question survey to send out. So if you don't mind answering those questions as I close this, we'd really appreciate that, just to get feedback, especially from our dealers, on the value of this and where we can go from here. So again, thank you for attending. Don't be afraid to talk to either Josh or Bruno, myself or Mike, or any of your local John Deere dealer for further questions on water management stuff. Thanks again.